I love movies, maybe a bit too much. Old or new, sci-fi or documentary. You name it, I probably have watched it. I'm a huge fan of the original Star Wars trilogy and the Matrix trilogy, but my taste ranges far wider than just big names in sci-fi. I even like the older Adam Sandler films and Jim Carrey films, which I've noticed aren't really that popular amongst my age group. This was a really hard choice for me because there are so many movies to choose from. I originally wanted to do The Matrix, but I thought I wanted to do something different from what we had talked about in class. Hence, my pick for my favorite movie of all time is V for Vendetta. Before I begin, let me give you some background on the movie. This 2005 film was James McTeague's first production as a director. The screenplay was written by the Wachowski brothers, and the original written series was created by Alan Moore and David Lloyd for Vertigo DC Comics. Hugo Weaving plays the mass resistance fighter V, while Natalie Portman plays the main female protagonist Evie Hammond. Stephen Rea plays the role of Chief Inspector Eric Finch. The movie is set in Britain in 2032, where the fascist Northfire Party are in power. A vigilante in a Guy Fawkes mask, V, rescues Evie Hammond, an employee of state-run British television network, from members of the secret police. In doing so, she becomes an ally in his battle to bring down the regime. This movie has it all: action, romance, so much symbolism that's practically rubbed in the viewer's face, and Easter eggs relating to totalitarian regimes, both fictional and real. First up, action. V draws his inspiration from Guy Fawkes, one of the people involved in the infamous gunpowder plot of 1605. His fascination with that era is shown very explicitly in how he speaks, dresses, and when he literally brings knives to a gunfight. The action sequences in this movie are quite sparse, but each of them invokes this fluidity in motion for V and enhances the scene by using some of the cinematographic techniques seen in The Matrix for Trinity and Neo's fight scenes. Imagine the lobby shootout but with Neo throwing knives. That's pretty close to what this is. Now on to romance. There is some romance between V and Evie, but it isn't really an important factor in the movie. However, it is reminiscent of the fact that the movie's adaptation of the character V makes him a much more reliable entity. Alan Moore, the original writer of V for Vendetta, believed that his portrayal of a ruthless, uncompromising rebel fighter was the only correct rendition of the character. However, the V in the movie is much more compassionate and feels much more human. The fact that he saves Evie in the first place shows he cares about others, even if he doesn't know them. Also, when he goes about taking revenge on the people who sentenced him to go to prison and endure human experimentation, he shows them mercy when they show repentance. Even though he does dupe Evie into thinking she has been captured and tortures her, his intentions themselves are not bad. He is trying, in his own way, to free her from the shackles of the dystopian society she is part of, and so make her a stronger person. In presenting him as a more relatable character, we naturally side with V, as we have already learned in this class. However, they did this in a way that didn't undermine the presentation of V as an idea rather than an individual, and that is one of the most impressive qualities of this film. To make it engaging without making it all about the character himself. The whole premise of this movie is a showdown between freedom fighters and a totalitarian regime. To emphasize the point of the movie that V is more an idea than an individual, the writers and director have made sure there's no shortage of symbolisms, alluding to V or the Latin numeral for 5, which is also a V. Take a listen to the introduction V gives Evie when he first meets her.
Voila! In view, a humble vaudevillian veteran, cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified, and has vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin, vanguarding vice and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition.
That's a lot of words beginning with V, isn't it? Also, the clock hands for 5 minutes past 11 o'clock, the scar on Evie's forehead. the track numbers for the music V plays in his home, the fireworks blazing across the night sky after the parliament buildings are destroyed, and the enormous domino formation in the shape of a V are all references to the fact that V is supposed to be an idea or a symbol. I also enjoyed the various references to famous works of literature. People who have an interest in these more well-known classics will enjoy this movie as well. V is compared to Edmond Dantès from The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, when Evie responds to Finch's question up to her about V's identity by saying the following. In both stories, the hero escapes an unjust and traumatic imprisonment and spends decades preparing to take vengeance on his oppressors under a new persona. The slogan, "Strength through unity, unity through faith," is a nod to war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, from 1984, and Supreme Chancellor Sutler is reminiscent of the more well-known entity Big Brother. This movie might sound drab, and the title isn't that engaging either. I myself dismissed it for years before watching it. However, there is a truly meaningful revelation on the idea of freedom and resistance, and that alone makes it worth watching. The most important quality of this movie is that it has since had an impact on society. The activism group known as Anonymous, as well as many other incidences of protest, have adopted the Guy Fawkes mask worn by V as their symbol, and even wear them to rallies. Although some of the work done by individuals in these groups has been questionable, for the most part they are reflective of the same values that V fought for in the movie. A production that spearheaded social change, in my opinion, has had its worth proven. And so I humbly present to you my favorite movie, V for Vendetta. Thank you for watching.